Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Irresistible and I'm a manifestation and soul realignment coach. My channel is geared towards helping you become your highest potential so that you can create and live the extraordinary life that is your birthright. In today's video, I want to talk about the concept of everyone is you pushed out. But before we get started, just a reminder that I do offer both email and video coaching. I recently launched a new 3-session package for 30 minutes each. So definitely you want to check that out. All the information is in the description below. And of course, please do not forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon in order to receive a notification anytime I upload a new video. So let's get started. When it comes to everyone is you pushed out, this is a concept that is highly spoken about by Neville Goddard, law of assumption, and it is a very powerful concept that once you really understand, you will notice how you are creating everything, even the people that are in your life. So the concept of everyone is you pushed out is literally as it says, that everyone is always showing up in the way that you assume they will. You're building assumptions about them that's causing them to show up both in terms of their character, their feelings, as well as their actions and behaviors. So they're showing up fully based on the assumptions you are creating about them. Now, how do these come into play? You might say, I just met this person. How is it that I have assumed them to be like that? Well, this is what I will be discussing later on in this video, because you cannot just say that I am assuming something about a person I just met. There is usually background assumptions that are causing you to assume these people to be the way they are. Everything is always coming from you. And you'll understand in a little bit how that is. In many of my videos, I've spoken about assumptions running at 3 levels. It's assumptions you have about yourself, which is your self-concept, assumptions you have about other people, and assumptions about circumstances in general. They are all interconnected. Everything's interconnected. And even the assumptions you have about circumstances in general are always impacting what's happening in your life, whether they're people who are close to you or not. So if you believe we live in a cruel world where there's a lot of unfairness, inequality, and all of that, you will be manifesting circumstances close to you, your life, your surroundings, even if they are people that are not super close to you, have to reflect that. So you might see work colleagues being unfairly treated. You might see a neighbor being unfairly treated. So it's all a reflection of your own assumptions. And technically, there aren't just multiple versions of you and multiple versions of other people. There are also multiple versions of Earth and multiple versions of the universe. So there's always multiple versions. So if you believe that Earth is heading towards disaster and destruction, you're going to be on a version of Earth that is heading towards disaster and destruction, and you're going to be experiencing a lot more of that. You will be perceiving it in your reality. Now, having said that, you're not responsible for being mistreated by other people and taking the blame. No, absolutely, you should not accept being abused or mistreated by anyone. Absolutely not. But you also want to work on changing your inner assumptions. That's something also I wanted to lay out on the table. Now, when I work with my clients, I never just take their assumptions about the other person. I always integrate it at several levels, and I'll be sharing that in a little bit. It's always taking into account not just the assumptions you have about the other person. I'm also taking into account the assumptions you have about how they see you. So how you think they see you is also important. Of course, how you see yourself, which is self-concept, and then how you see the world, which is circumstances in general. And this is best explained in these following examples. The best way to explain how everyone is you pushed out is through real life examples. I'm going to be sharing with you 2 examples inspired by my clients. Looking at everyone is you pushed out, the way it is generally explained is your assumptions about other people, so how you see them. And they must always mirror back to you those assumptions that you have about them. But it is not enough on its own. In my opinion, I always say that it is a combination of additional factors, starting also with how you think they see you. So it's not just how you see them, but how you think they see you. Because ultimately that is also shaping your assumptions about them and the way they are showing up. Adding further to that, I also think that you should include how you see yourself in relation to that focus area, as well as how you see the world in the focus area. And you'll understand why in a minute. So let's start with this client of mine who is currently in a relationship with her specific person. And she has built some assumptions about him that are causing him to show up exactly that way. And you will understand in a little bit why she's kind of molded him to be that way. She has the assumption that he is weak, that he doesn't have a very strong character, and that he's influenced by his family and his family's opinion. She's also expecting him to disappoint her. She sees that her SP doesn't consider her when making plans, so he kind of doesn't prioritize her. He prioritizes his family and what his family wants, but she feels that she comes second in that. And she also doesn't sense that her specific person apologizes enough whenever he wrongs her. She's expecting him to kind of beg for her forgiveness. Now, when you see how she sees he perceives her, you'll kind of understand why she's building these assumptions about him. So looking at how she thinks he perceives her, she thinks that he thinks she can be taken advantage of easily. She thinks that he is wondering if she is his ideal woman after all. And she thinks that he thinks she's weak, that he can get her back with as little effort as possible. So anytime they have a fight, she comes back very easily, just with him apologizing. Now, you'll understand in a little bit why she thinks all that. If you look at how she sees herself, you'll see that she does not believe she is lovable long term, because in her past, her relationships have not lasted long. She also believes that she can be mistreated and manipulated, because that was her experience in her past relationships. And she feels she's not worthy of the commitment and relationship that she desires. Ultimately, this is also impacted by how she sees the world. She thinks that a successful relationship requires the other person to bend over backwards for her. Otherwise, it's not successful, and eventually you will be taken for granted. So if they're not bending over backwards for you, then they're taking you for granted. And it all boils down to the assumption she has that love does not last. Hence why her relationships never really last. So of course, here, if you really want to go into it, you see they're all interconnected. It does not matter which came first, which assumption came first, and which one is the root. What matters is that we address them all, and you address them all by reversing these assumptions and creating affirmations that address all these assumptions. So for the first one, where you look on the top left-hand column, I am not lovable long-term, she would reverse that and say, I'm lovable at all times in my relationships. I'm always very well treated. I am worthy of the commitment and relationship that I desire. And the same applies for all others. Now let's look at another example that I have from one of my clients who was working with me last year on addressing her issues with a work colleague. So her assumptions about the work colleague was that this colleague is incompetent this colleague doesn't work and wants to get ahead without working. Going into how she thinks her work colleague looks at her, she has assumptions that her colleague thinks she's not deserving of the promotion she got. So she got a promotion, my client got a promotion, and she believes her colleague thinks she is not deserving of that promotion and that the senior management will realize at some point that they made a mistake. My client also has the assumption that her colleague thinks she doesn't walk her talk, that what applies to her doesn't apply to her team. And my client also has the assumption that her colleague plans to do unto her what she did unto her colleague, which actually she didn't do anything. She was just the one who was promoted instead of her colleague, despite the fact that my client had fewer years of experience and she is younger. But that's her assumption, and you'll see why she has that assumption. You'll see it in a minute. If you look at her self-concept, you see that my client does not feel deserving of the promotion that she got because she feels she's not respected by her team. She thinks she doesn't have the leadership skills or authority. And she's constantly actually looking for outside validation. So she's not confident in and of herself and her skills. Even though her boss sees her skills, she sees that she is absolutely worthy of this promotion. She's not seeing that she has the necessary skills. And when you look at her assumptions about the world, she believes that you have to fight for your position, that it can't be something that's easily given to you as it has been easily given to her. And she also believes that her gain would be someone else's loss. Of course, her colleague feels that she lost that position. She also has the assumption that corporate life is brutal and that you can be easily replaced. And what goes around comes around, because she believes that she has wronged that person by getting that position. She believes that at some point that colleague is going to take her position from her. If you look at this, you will see how everyone is you pushed out and everything is interrelated. So it's not enough to just look at how you see other people and how they see you. You need to also look at how you see yourself and how you see the world. I always say it's your assumptions about yourself, about other people, and about circumstances in general. And it's always covering all of these three aspects together. You cannot exclude them. Now you can exclude them and you can focus on affirming for the other people at all times, but if you don't do the root cause, and sometimes the root cause is your self-concept, you may not address the issue. That's why with my clients, I always work on all levels. I always develop affirmations for them, for self, for others, and for circumstances in general. So I hope you like this video. I think that this really puts everything for you together. You cannot separate them. They're all interconnected. You don't have to find out what the root cause is, but you do want to create new assumptions, and you do that through these affirmations that will help you address all of them. So whichever is the root cause will automatically be rewired by building a new story through your new assumptions and affirmations. This is how you can truly create new assumptions, not just about people, but about yourself as well. I hope you liked this video. If you did, then please hit the thumbs up. This will help my message spread. And if you have any questions, then please do share them below. I will be creating videos based on your questions. And I look forward to seeing you again in the next video.